Well, hello, and I'm back with an installment for September 24th, and our topic is pastoral preparation. Let me tell you a story. Um, Back when I was living in Beaton, Ontario, and working at the church in Tottenham, I was also part of the music community there. Tottenham's kind of the Nashville of Canada, the bluegrass center of all of Canada, and there's a lot of musicians there, and I used to go play at a bar about once or twice a month. And there were a lot of very good musicians there. One of them was Al. Uncle Al, I used to call him. He was a bluegrass banjo player, played a lovely old Gibson, and quite well, and liked to sing. He started out doing penny operas and musicals as a younger person, but he was getting on in years at this point, and he was playing bluegrass in the bar. So I got to know him a little bit, and we did some projects together. Well, anyway, he had a grandchild. And I congratulated him, and he thanked me for the congratulations, and we played. And as I was leaving that evening, he came out of the bar behind me. And he said, "I need to talk to you." Now, he was not a member of my congregation. That was fairly normal around there. He said, "That grandson of mine is in the sick kids hospital, and he's going to die. He's just an infant, newborn." I said, "I'm sorry." He said, "I was hoping you'd come and baptize him." Well, before we could have the conversation any further, I did have a question for him, and I'm sure you can imagine what that question was. Can't give you any bonus points, but let me know if you think of what my question was. We disposed of that issue, and I said, yes, I'd come. Just let me know when I should be there. So every time I saw him, I checked in with him. And then I went home one night, and I was doing a bathroom right down to the studs and building it back out. It was a big job. And I changed into my scrubbies. Susan wasn't there, and I was just getting ready to go to work, and the phone rang. And it was Uncle Al, and the baby was going to be taken off life support that night. So could I come down to Sick Children's Hospital? And I said, yeah, I'll be there right away. So I changed back into clergy clothes and walked out the door into a pouring rain at about 6 o'clock at night, which makes it rush hour in the GTA. And I started driving and realized I had never driven to Sick Children's Hospital. I had no idea where I was going. I knew where it was, but I didn't know how to get there. And in the car, started organizing my thoughts around what my pastoral oversight supervisor used to call pastoral preparation, making a pastoral plan. And as I was going down there to baptize an infant child who was about to die, I had to start thinking about what I was going to try to provide this family, this very secular family, in their time of deep, deep sorrow. Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's the moment that I'm referring to. And so some of you have written in, a few of you, with your stuff. Matthew's piece on the 3 concentric circles I found particularly poignant, and I'll tell you about that in a moment, why. Yes, by all means, prayer is key, although driving in rush hour traffic through a driving rain can provoke prayer in another direction. Making space, understanding things like sacraments, what that means to you, what that means to them, what that means to God. All those things are important. But what my supervisor used to say is you shouldn't walk in the room with just good wishes. You need to have a plan. And every plan is different, but you can follow certain kinds of patterns or paradigms or parameters or rubrics or however you want to put it. And he didn't actually offer us anything at that time. He did a lot in other areas, but when visiting the sick or visiting the elderly or visiting people in advance of funerals, or as I spent a couple hours of my day-to-day visiting people who literally joined the church because he was dying, and he's now dying, it's imminent, have a plan. Wedding interviews. As you become more in demand for weddings, and weddings are becoming a rare part of the church. 7 years ago, I did 35 weddings in 1 year. This year, I did 3. And the weekly service itself. What is your plan? How do you go about making a plan? What are you going to do? So one of the things that I think often goes unmet is you're going to learn their names. When I worked in rural Ontario down in the GTA, I knew everybody pretty much by association, everybody within a few miles, at least by association, within a couple of years. I've worked here in Sault Ste. Marie for 7.5 years now, and I know almost nobody. We're missing 3 generations in our church. So names are really important, trying to connect with people, and especially around issues of grief. We live in an increasingly non-church environment, and also we live in an age where old crocs like me who are retiring are sometimes desperate to hold on to their identity as pastor and priest, and they're going to step in front of you all the time and prevent you from having those moments that can afford you familiarity and contact and the possibility of future relationship. When you have that call in the middle of the night, in the middle of a meeting, and you're driving to the hospital, or you're driving to the home, or you're driving to the funeral home, what are you thinking? What are you planning to do out of that? That's what I'm interested in. And I agree, prayer is important. Prayer offers a chance to clear your head and center on what's in front of you. And I agree that there's a lot that's left up to God. But I am reminded of the story where a famous preacher, toward the end of his career, decided to preach one sermon extemporaneously. And he got up and just spoke from off the cuff and listened to the Holy Spirit, as his colleague said. And next week at coffee, he told his colleague, I listened to the Holy Spirit. I just preached and listened to the Holy Spirit. Oh, that's wonderful, his colleague said. And what did the Holy Spirit say? And the Holy Spirit said, you've been lazy. When I am on my way to these kinds of events, often which are very emotional, I keep in mind that I am probably going to meet the family of very devoted Christians who are not Christians at all. And I'm going to be meeting possibly people who are even of a hostility toward the church. And I have a plan to try to have us stay focused on the task at hand, which is, as the Bible will tell us, to bring comfort to the suffering. So that's what I'm looking for along that line. I hope that you can come in and chime in on that. I have been trying to set up 2 discussion groups as it has been recommended. I think I have done it, but I don't know. So take a look at the page and see if you can find your group and see if you can make a contribution. Let me know right away. I have a couple days where I might be able to straighten it out. I'm going to contact the part of the university that does this kind of work and see what I can get from them. But I'm a little squashed for time. I'm still working full time for a while yet. And also, I want to remind everybody that 25% of your total mark is participation. It's important that you put in every time I have a posting of some kind, that you put in something that is positive and encouraging and helpful to one another. Our next time together that I'll be posting, and I might put in a chewable in between. You don't have to watch those. The dates are important. If I put in something for Tuesday, October 8th, that is one you have to read. And it's right near your course outline. And your first reflection, let's say, offering is due on October 8th. And keep in mind, I'm not looking for a lot. A call to worship, prayer of intercession, introduction to a sermon, and it's worth, just for handing it in, it's worth 1/8 of the final mark. 6%, not 1/8. What did I say? 1/8. It's worth 6% of the final mark. The total comes to 4 assignments over 2 semesters, worth 24%. If you hand in all 4, you get 25%. So it's important that you do that as well. And it doesn't have to be complex, but I'm looking for you to reflect on an aha moment, a conflict, a problem, a challenge, something you've read that was wonderful as well. And then following that, we have Reading Week on October 29th. We'll be talking about The Preaching Life by Barbara Brown Taylor. And I want to know about recent challenges that you met in pastoral encounters. I just gave you a little story earlier on, and I hope that you can give me your stories too. Okay? In the meantime, that's it for this week. Don't be shy. I want to hear from you. Bye for now.